real bad, but you have still they call them SJPs, which is safety job procedures. And basically the way it works, if you have an accident and there's an SJP out there, then you had to do something wrong. And it's your fault. It's not my fault because I gave you a safe work environment. So basically, as an employer, and it's all inside this 1910 standard over here, is that as an employer under OSHA, it's my responsibility to provide you with a safe workplace. Now, I can't keep you from having an accident, but basically the way it works out is if you have an accident, odds are it's your fault. It's not my fault because I gave you a procedure the way you're supposed to do things. So we're going to start working safe in here, and I've heard this several times where people has disconnected hose with pressure on. You know, hear them squirting and flashing, and they bounce out your hand and they can knock you in the face. Right? You get out there, of course, here we're running very low pressure. You get out in the industry, you're running high pressure. You got some type of fitting on the end of that flexible hose, and that sucker comes loose and knocks you in the head or knocks an eye out, then it's your responsibility unless I give you a procedure that says, okay, you are not going to connect or disconnect or work on a circuit with what? With power supply. That's basic rule. And of course our power is pneumatic power. So what we're going to do is we're going to start using safety tags. We don't have the ability to lock out, but we have the ability to tag out. Lockout, what is lockout? Locking out the power source at what we call the disconnect. So if you work in an industry, every power source has a means of disconnecting the power from your source. Another safety thing that we need to iterate in fluid power, in pneumatics, even if you lock out the pressure source, there's a high probability there's still pressure in the system. So we'll check and see. I think our cutoffs, I know our disconnects don't do that, but our cutoff valve. So we got a cutoff valve on our pressure source, right on our servicing. We'll see if that bleeds that off. If it don't, then what we have to do get used to doing is up under on your filter there should be a drain, don't it? If you open that thing up, you should be able to safely bleed off power. In hydraulic systems, and we'll get to this later on, I think it's in the chapter on accessories. If you turn the pump off on a hydraulic system, then you lose pressure. Unless the system runs what we call an accumulator. An accumulator is a big old device, it's a big old tank that either can do it by springs, or they can do it through pneumatic pressure, or they can do it through just an extremely big wave. And what happens is when you turn your system on, it automatically comes up and feeds up that accumulator and compresses that spring or lifts that weight up. And then if something happens and your power fails, then you get pressure from the accumulator. And so if you've got that type of system, you can understand. I've got a crane or a robot that's picking up something really big, and we lose power. And all of a sudden that sucker or the gripper opens, right? And then what happens? It comes falling down. So there's a lot of systems that has an accumulator on a hydraulic system that actually keeps pressure on the line even if power fails for a certain amount of time. Basically, it's enough time for you to make things safe, right? When things get out from under things or stuff like that. So, of course, if you had that system, once you make everything safe, then you would go and bleed. You would have to do what? You have to bleed off that accumulator. We'll have to see what happens over here. The disconnects that we have on the Amatro line, which is really, really neat, those disconnects, and so the service unit has a disconnect on there. It's not just an on-off valve; it is a disconnect. So a disconnect is a true disconnect is something that we can lock out, and unfortunately, we don't have those over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to tag out. So tag out and lockout are not the same thing. You don't understand that. So tag out, we use tags to convey information and then we use locks to disable power source. Okay. So we don't put a lock without tag, because you're coming out there and that lock's on there, and I have no idea what it's on there for. And of course, it's against, basically, if you're under OSHA, it is against the law for me to do what? To remove that lock unless we have extenuating circumstances. There are a list of procedures that I would have to follow to see if it was okay for me to remove that lock. And it's a lot. And so I have to exhaust all those situations on that checklist. And if I can't do that, of course, if you pass away and you got your lock out there, there's got to be a procedure that I can go through. Either I go out of business or do what? Be able to remove that lock. Well, if you go on early, then one of the procedures is I have to make every attempt possible to contact you to see if it's okay to remove your lock. And then if I exhaust all those, right, you're over in Germany somewhere, you don't have your cell phone, right, or you have it turned off. And then once I've exhausted all means, of course, here, the means would be probably a phone call, email, right, you understand? And if we have texting capabilities, I would probably try to text. I would probably call, we would probably have a emergency contact, just like here's the call it. You have an emergency contact, and that would be one of the things. I would contact your emergency contact to see if they knew how to get in touch with you. So there's several procedures that I could follow where I could come out there and I could cut your lock off. I can't unlock it because according to OSHA now, there's only one person that's got the lock, the key. When I worked at U.S. Steel, the foremen kept a key. They kept them in a locked cabinet. They couldn't leave them out. They had to be in a locked cabinet. So when I worked out there, they had two keys. You had one, and then they had one in a locked cabinet which the supervisors had access to. But the rules have changed. Now there is no two keys. There's one key. And if you lose that key, then of course you probably have to cut the lock off, but then they'll give you another lock with a different key. So if you lock out, you have to tag out according to the rules. We're not going to be able to lock out. All we're going to be able to do is tag out. I think James mentioned, and we might see in trying to get some of those where you have a strap that you put around your disconnect and you can lock that out. But right now we don't have that. So right now we're going to start locking. We're going to start tagging out anytime we do what? Anytime we connect, anytime we modify or work on a circuit, we're going to tag out. So there's no more of this what? All over the place. All right, y'all heard it several times. And here we don't have much pressure because our hose, we have 60 psi, which is still dangerous, but our hosing and our flow is very, very limited. And even now, these hoses flopped around. I saw a student, I'm not going to mention any names, where the hose come around and the hose was flopping around. Well, what would happen if that sucker would have hit him in the eye? Okay, y'all understand that? So safety glasses. You got to have your safety glasses on while you're overworking. Okay? And of course now you are required to have your own. If you don't have your safety glasses, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you borrow a pair, and then I'm going to take some points off your lab because you're what? You're required to have those, right? And if you're going to forget them, if you don't need them in another class, you're assigned a lab bench this semester, and nobody else is using that thing. So what can you do? Put it in the drawer. Don't leave it up, because just put it in one of those drawers. You're more than welcome to do that. So let's look at our lab procedures and make sure we understand these. And I'm going to give a copy out for these. And we're going to start following these lab procedures. First of all, it makes it good for you and it makes it good for me. So we have a problem. We got 10 people in the class. And I know I've caused a little bit of problems because you get ready for a sign-off and somebody else calls me, they'll call me and I'll lose track of who's first, right? Understand that? That peeves me off a lot when I was first, and then they go to somebody else. One thing that really pays me off is I'm sitting in a store ready to spend money, and the phone rings, and they pick that sucker up and saying, I'm waiting on a customer right now. Because they take care of the people on the phone before they do what? Take care of you. That pays me off. I'll turn around and walk out. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a list on. It's all in the lab procedure. So what we're going to do is we're going to, up there on the front benches, we're going to, where the clipboard's at, we'll put a sign-off sheet. And you'll come up there, and when you're ready for a sign-off, you'll come up there and put your name on that sheet. I will not stop. If there's somebody on the sheet, even if you say, hey, there's nobody on the sheet. Well, what you have to understand is when I go up there, I don't go up there every time. If there's 4 names on the sheet, I'll write those down on a sheet of paper and I'll mark them off. So there might be 4 people in front of you when you think you're what? When you think you're next on the list. Okay, y'all understand that? And so even asking questions, I go by that list. So if you got a question or if you got a problem or something, you're going to do what? You're going to put your name on that list, and I go down that list, and that's the fairest way that I know how to do that. And in that way, basically, you'll have a good idea. But of course, you never know how long it's going to take. But that's the way we go. Safety glasses must be worn in the vicinity of. If you're at your lab station, you're going to have. I don't care if you're wiring the circuit up. The guy across the way might be wiring the circuit up, right? Something might happen over there and shoot something over and still get you. So if you're over there in that lab, I want you to have your safety glasses. Everybody understand that? And that's one thing they're really, really big on at US Steel is those safety glasses. I think at US Steel they still call it 74 safety glasses. Huh? Yeah. We had a guy out there, Dennis Ramsey. He was a foreman, and he told us about. He was over there at the tin mill, and the guy had his safety glasses on, and he noticed the guy was scratching his eye through the lens. And the guy said, "Well, they always fog up when I walk out of the air-conditioned room, so I just put my lenses out." And there's no telling how long he got by with that, because that's something you don't. Yeah, he just had frames on. Yeah. So short pants and open-toe shoes, footwear is not allowed in the lab. In fact, we don't even allow it in the classroom. Everybody understand that. So if you're in this class, we don't want shorts and we don't want open-toe shoes. There's really, I don't know of hardly any place in industry, unless you're a roofer or a painter, where you can wear what? Shorts and under because everybody okay there? Synthetic clothing not as allowed in the work area. Do not make any connection or circuit modification while a circuit is energized. So we're going to do the disconnect. So our disconnect, what we're going to do is the one that's up in the air. Okay, so that's the one we're going to tag. So I got a bunch of tags out here, and it's this is a standard tag. We got rubber bands. I finally found my rubber bands. Y'all hit a little bit. So we got a rubber band, and basically, I'll let y'all put these on here. But you'll see one. I've got it folded over, got a hole punched in there and folded over so it won't tear out. And then all you need to do is just put your name on here. We don't need dates or any remarks or anything like that on this one. So normally what you would do, some tag outs are a little different. All of them I know requires your name. Sometimes some of them requires contact information. This would be true probably if you're an outside agency coming into a plant. So you're not an employee that they can go up and either know or look up on a computer to see who you are. I think out of US Steel they went to, I think, a brass tag on the lock. So they didn't even put these on there anymore. We did. When I worked out there, we used this. So we had a little strap we carried our lock and tag on. US Steel finally went to a brass tag that had your name on there. You had your employee number on there. Yeah. Had your name and employee number on there, so they could get in touch with you. So different companies require different things on their tag, and what you need to do is make sure you follow the procedures for the company that you go to work at. Yeah. So these are the tags, and like I said, they got holes punched into them, and these are the rubber bands. Y'all can go ahead and put them in there. I think I got two. It says tag out the pneumatic disconnect when connecting, modifying, or working on a circuit. Power must be removed. So here's the procedure just we're working on. You're not a horrible student.
Sure, I used to not be like that.
Power must be removed from the circuit using the cutoff valve on the service unit while awaiting the instructor sign off for help. So this is something I got used to, especially in motor control. Motor controls, we're dealing with 208 volts. And the problem is that people, when they're sitting there waiting on a sign off, they forget about that. And they'll go over there and accidentally press a button or do something like that. So what I want you to do is when you're waiting a sign off, you don't have to lock out and tag out. All you need to do is just turn it off at the service unit. And then when I come back on there, you can turn it on. And that way nobody's going to come around and accidentally pull things off. You see this happen all the time where people get to talking and they'll go over there and they'll pull a cable off or something like that or hit a button. And then, of course, in real life, they could cause a lot. It could cause a death. I don't know if I told you about the guy that got killed when I worked out at U.S. Steel, the number 8 blast furnace.
And blast furnace?
Yeah. Number 8 blast furnace was a positive pressure furnace. So what they did is they had a big conveyor belt. It was really neat. It was all computer controlled. And they had a bunch of hoppers out there, silos. And they put all the material in the silo and whatever type of iron they were making, they just punched it into the computer. And it would automatically feed all the material on a big conveyor belt. And then they had a big conveyor belt that ran onto the top. But what happened is they had one valve, I don't know if it's hydraulic or pneumatic, it doesn't make any split power. And they would open up the top valve and all the material would fall into it, and then they would close it, and then they would open up the bottom hopper door, and then it would fall down into the furnace and make the iron, depending on which side they were working on. Number 8 blast furnace was what they call a continuous tap furnace. So it basically had a big divider in the center, and it had 2 sides on it. And when they was tapping on one side, tapping means open it up. They call it a tap because it had a big old mud thing there, and they'd swing this big old thing out and drill the mud out, and then it would come running down a trough and fall into a big train car in the bottom they call a submarine. Yeah, I heard they had one blow up out there. I wasn't there when that one blew up. Somehow they got a bunch of water in the bottom of that thing. It blew the sub up. Yeah. And nobody got hurt because it was sitting out there by itself, but it flew through Slackmore. Well, the problem with steel, it's so dang hot that when it hits the steel, the water separates. And unfortunately, a lot of water is hydrogen. And we know hydrogen gas is very explosive. So we have problems like that. They have to really watch that water because if you pour that steel on top of water. Yeah. So it's a cause problem. So how did we get on? Oh yeah, so the guy went in there and went into it. They was having problems, I think, with the top one. And they went out, they locked and tagged out the top one. They did everything right for the top one, but guess what they didn't do? They didn't lock and tag the bottom. And then they sent a guy down into the control room to activate the cylinder, and the guy was in there trying to watch it. And he went down there and did the manual override on the wrong cylinder. The bottom door opened up and caught him and keep pulling. Basically, from what I understand, I wasn't over that. They said they hauled him down in 2 feet. So when you're in something like that, this is why we disconnect all power sources. A lot of people.
I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if it takes 4 hours to shut the thing out.
Yeah.
I'm not going in there until I know.
And that was the big problem. At least 10 points will be deducted from the lab grade for any safety violation. So some of our safety evaluations are not there, right? Some of your safety violations that would get somebody killed, and we're really going. What we used to do it in the service is anything like that. Anytime they had a bad accident, they'd bring all the squadrons offline, and we'd have what we call a safety stand-up. Okay, no planes would fly. And we would come in and we would go over safety officers.
Oh,
Not much. They took a squadron.
pretty good though.
And it was lucky because I was stationed, I flew, our home port was in the Moffett Field, which is out in the very tip of the San Francisco Bay. It was one of the bases that got decommissioned and turned over to NASA. So NASA runs that place. We had a squadron over in Hawaii that had so many safety violations, they took that whole squadron offline for a month. But they still had to fly missions. So they chose some crews to go over there to Hawaii. So I got to go to Hawaii for a month.
How long was it? A month? Did you get an ICM?
No, it was, Barbers Point. It was a Navy air station. Made me think for a second. But it was on the Big Island.
I went to.
Not the Big Island. It was on the same island all over it.
I went to school. Broke my back home.
Oh, really? It was so neat. One of the guys that I went through A school with had two cars. He just gave us a car. So we had a vehicle we could ride around with. So I did get rode up 2 times for my long hair, but it was okay. We were on transit duty, and when I was supposed to go for the hearing was the same day that we left. We flew out.
Sorry, guys.
So I never did go. Moffett, California was a little more lax in there. Before starting the experiment, you're going to obtain a lab grade form. These are the lab grade forms. So what I want to do is I have to keep a record of how I came up with your grade for 5 years. But I know most people want their lab back. Well, the problem is if I give your lab back, then I have no record of how I came up with your grade. So what I do instead of keeping your labs is I grade you on the lab grade form. And then what I do at the end of the term is I keep the lab grade form, and what can I do now? I can get your labs back.
So we're gonna be on lab 3 today.
Well, yes and no. One thing that Nancy's been doing that she hadn't been, we will be on lab 3. But we're going to do a lab to start off with, and unfortunately I didn't have time to write it up because Nancy has been doing it, but they haven't been giving y'all credit for it. So the first lab we're going to do is we're going to go over there and inventory the frame.
So we have an invitation.
Well, we don't have we got a book and eventually I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to eventually do is I'm going to have you a checkoff sheet where you can check off when you find it. We have an inventory inside the booklet, so that's what we'll use.
We only have
Huh?
We only have like 6 weeks left.
I know, but this will be one of the first things we'll do. What's nice about the inventory booklet is there's a lot of things right now that we don't know what they look like. So what they got in the inventory booklet that comes with the trainer is they've got a picture along with all of them. So that way it would be a lot easier for you to find, right? But yeah, we're going to inventory the trainer today. And then what we'll do is we'll 2 labs. And so the last lab we'll do is what? Inventory. And make sure all the parts get back into the right trainer. So when this Lagrange teaches this next semester, everything will be there.
Is this our how many semesters is she teaching?
Huh?
Lagrange.
I mean, what?
Lagrange. How many semesters has she been teaching?
She's still in her first.
This is the first? Oh, okay, so the last one term was the first class that she taught? Okay, awesome. Pretty good, I like that. Yeah, she is, I like DLC.
Yeah, so we,
She knows her stuff.
yeah, she did. That's why we hired her.
You taught her.
Yeah, but you have to understand, Brittany graduated, I forgot how many years ago, but she's been working in the industry.
She went, when she was Mercedes. She went.
Well, she didn't actually work for Mercedes. She worked
as a
in,
contractor.
yeah, she worked as a contractor. Now I have to listen to people when they say I worked at Mercedes or I worked for Mercedes.
Exactly. She
So
worked-
they have a ton of outside contractors in that plant. I mean, a ton. When a team,
Would they even be qualified, like, just to be able to get on with Mercedes as a general contractor, like, on street stuff?
yeah, you do, but each company that works inside their hiring practices are different. So, when the team so this is set up for team labs. Luckily, this class was small enough where everybody got their own trainer. So just ignore the part that says 118. Normally what we do in this class, if we have more, we got 11 trainers, 10 trainers. We got 11 trainers over there. So normally if we don't get above that, if we get above that, then we allow y'all to work in teams. This class we're not going to work in teams. When your team, which now will be you, needs an instructor check or help, one team member, which will be you, must write his or her name on the sign-off sheet located at the instructor's desk at the front of the lab. In the appropriate column, write your name, place a check mark in the box indicating if you need help or you need a check off. Write the number assigned to your trainer. So what I did this morning, in the center of the trainer, I've assigned numbers. And that way I don't have to come looking for you, right? So you say this number, I know where they're at, and I can come directly to you. The instructor will check off labs and answer questions in the order that names are placed on the sheet. And so that's what we're going to do. That's the fairest way I can do it, so I don't jump in front of somebody, right? Students in a team must take turns. Y'all don't have to do that. Each team member must. Okay, we don't need to do that. Place a check mark beside each experiment procedure step as you complete them. At ever having the instructor check your work. In this class, we've only got one of those, and it's at the very bottom, right? Once you are confident that the circuit is working as prescribed, have the lab instructor check the circuit and sign your lab and your lab form. Before the circuit is checked off, I'll ask you questions about the circuit, and y'all saw me do that, right? To verify that you know how to do that. Of course, what I'm really looking for when I come over there is I'm looking at your what? That detailed procedure step that some of y'all are having problems with. Fluid components that are not part, and this is another thing that I have. You go over there, and we have people that do that. So they're trying to get lab 3 signed off, and they say, well, I'm going to jump on this. I'm going to go ahead and start constructing lab 4. So you start throwing all this stuff over there, and I come up for a checkout, and I've got all this stuff over there, right? You understand? So what I want you to do is anything that you are not using for that lab, be put up. That's exactly right. And then that way there's not going to be any confusion where I come over and say, well, this is part of this is part of this, and don't hit this button. That's a part of the second 4. And here I'm over there trying to sign yours off, and everybody else is waiting on me to get signed off, and you're trying to explain to me why you have so many modules over there. So if that module is not part of the circuit, then you're going to do what? It's going to be in the door. I know y'all like to get a jump on things, but it gets very, very confusing. Each team, so you got a lab grade form that you're going to fill out, right? Lab grade forms, this is your official grade. Lab grade forms do not, but you can take your labs home if you want to. Okay. Those labs are your responsibility. I give you one copy. We have a copy budget. Last term we went over quite a bit and fussed at it. So I make you one copy of these labs. You're responsible for that copy. So you can't come in here and say, well, I left it at home or something like that. So what we'll do is I'll make sure these labs are up on the internet in Blackboard, and if you lose it, you can do what? If you lose the lab form, you're really in trouble. So these lab forms are not supposed to leave. This is your official grade. So what we do is over there we got 2 trays. We got 2 trays over there now. We said labs to be graded, labs not ready to be graded. So what would be the smart thing to do?
It's not ready.
Don't take your labs home. So if it's not ready to be graded, don't take it home, put it in the little thing that says what? Not ready to be graded. And then they'll be there, and you won't lose them. So there's really no excuse for doing what? Losing a lab, or losing a point, because they're not so. You can take the labs home if you want to, but you gotta make sure that you bring them back. I'm not gonna tell you how many times I've heard that. And guys, I don't need to record this. What? Oh, that's the software.
Software what?
It's called Fluid Power, not Fluid Power, it's called Fluid Stream.
It looks like something like that.
Once you have completed an experiment, staple the lab grade form in the upper left-hand corner to the front of the experiment pages. I'm right-handed, so I'm writing with this one. I'm grading your lab form's on the top. You staple it on the other side. I had a guy, why I brought this up, it never had occurred to me before, but I had a guy in one of my other classes that stapled in the upper right instead of what? Upper left. And you wouldn't believe how hard it was for me to do those. Because I'd get to his and I'd do what every time? Flip it over. When I do motor controls, and I grade these labs, right? And this lab, this class is pretty easy. Motor controls, though, we have a bunch of questions and stuff inside those labs that you have to answer. So normally when I teach motor controls to a standard size class, that ends up to be about 300 labs I have to grade. And to you, it's not much. If it takes me 5 seconds extra to grade your lab because you don't do things for procedure. But you add 5 seconds to all those labs, and you're talking about a bunch of time that you add. Yeah, so yeah. And we don't, we as technical instructors, basically we don't get paid for labs. So if I was an academic instructor, I'm required to teach a minimum of 15 credit hours. Well, that's it. I teach 15 credit hours, which would be basically 15 hours a week. We're supposed to be on campus 35 hours a week. We don't get, so we're supposed to be here 35 hours a week. So if I was an academic instructor, then I would have 20 hours every week to grade my lab and to grade my work here. So it would be highly unlikely that I would have to take anything home. If you're a technical instructor, we don't get paid for labs. So this class meets 5 hours a week. Huh? I'm technical. This is a technical class. Academic would be your math classes, your English classes. So if they say 3 hours a week, what that means is that class meets 3 hours a week over 16 weeks. If they do it in a mini term, then they need 3 hours of class. It all depends. They still have what? They still have 20 hours a week to do their stuff. This semester we have between 5 hours, and we add in lab, and 7 hours to do everything that we do outside the classroom. That's just the way it is. No, you're right. You're what they say. You're arguing with the choir. So basically, we don't get paid for that. So this semester, I have 7 hours a week of office hours, and they're spread out. And now that what they've done is they've assigned me to a committee that takes 2 hours a week. So it takes 5 hours a week, and then I'm responsible for that. So we teach five classes a semester. But we do most of ours in mini term. But you got to understand, it still works out to be the same. So right now I'm teaching 3 classes, but the classes are maybe twice as long because it's a mini term. So what do y'all do? Sorry guys. Complete experiments that require construction of the circuits must be turned in with all experiment questions answered. This class right now, currently, there's no questions at the end of the lab. I need to go back and redo that, so you'll be okay. But what we do is we give you 1 class period to turn in your lab. So you finish off, if you look at the lab form, there's a little place where I say, you completed the lab, and then there's the next thing says when the lab is due. What I'll do is I'll put that on there. You can turn it in the same day, but you got to turn it before the next class. That makes sense? Okay, guys, that's the lab procedures. So what's the very important part? What are we going to start doing? We're going to start tagging out. If we're constructing a circuit or modifying a circuit, what are we going to do? We're going to disconnect it, and we're going to put our tag out up there so nobody will come back there and energize the power source until you're ready for it to be powered up. So I'm not going to hear any more pipes squirting air out over there. Well, so what you got is you got a reprieve, right? But we're not going to hear that anymore. If you did that, like we said, if you did that in industry, not only could you hurt yourself, but you could also hurt somebody with damage some equipment too. But my responsibility is basically not to the equipment. My responsibility is what? To you, to keep it safe. Okay? Anybody got any questions on that? Y'all see the lab form. It should be pretty obvious. You need to fill out the information on that lab form. You need to get a lab form before you start a lab. So if I come back there and you don't have your lab form, then you say, well, I got to go up there and get one. But all of a sudden, I'm spending more time with you than we got people on the list, right? You understand that? That would upset me if I was another student. You don't follow procedures and you're taking up time with me. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and say, well, you need to go get your lab form. I'll go to the next person on the list, and what will you have to do? You have to put your name on there, and then I'll take off points for not following law. Procedures. Okay, y'all understand that? So following procedures at the plant that you work at is extremely important. So what we're going to do, the first lab we're going to do, and I've tried to do the inventory, guys, is we're going to inventory out of the book. Don't mark in the book. So we have two books. One of them's called TP 101 and one of them's called TP 102. My father's name is Thomas Pruitt. That's what we call him. We don't have, unfortunately, somehow over the time, we don't have enough of these to go around. But the inventory of the trainer, you got to do go through. So what it says, it don't make any difference. If everybody gets 102, there's enough 101 to go around, right? And then when you finish with your book, what are you going to do? You're going to bring it back up so the other person that was working out of 102 can do 101. You can only use one book at a time. This thing is in German, and it's also in English. So the page numbers for the English starts, you see the blue page in here, that's where the page number starts in English. And the page numbers are EN-1 through that. Huh? Pesto is a German company. There's an inventory sheet on here. Of course, basically, you don't need to really do this. What you need to do is just start turning to the pictures and just do find the component in your picture. What I want you to do, instead we don't have a checkoff list because I didn't have time to do it. Just write the name. Just write the name on there, right? You understand that? Just write the name of the part and how many of them there are on a sheet of paper. Just write that on a sheet of paper for me and turn that in. You know. In fact, what you probably need to do on EN4, EN-4 is a checklist, but it also gives you the number you're supposed to have. So this is probably the best place you need to go to find out if that's the right number, right? Yeah, EN-4. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the what? The blue section. If that page has been tore out, it's going to be the page numbers are going to be EN. We'll start off with EN. And then on EN4, they give, EN4 and EN5, they give you a inventory sheet, which I'll probably maybe scan that. Like I said, I don't have time. And then they start giving you pictures. And then, of course, with this, you can actually have a picture of what it's supposed to look like. Like I said, a lot of the parts in there we haven't went over yet. But you should be able to take a picture and find it, right? If you, we have the books are going to be on the table on the right-hand side. What I want you to do while you're inventorying the thing, if you find any extra parts, what I want you to do is bring them up and put them on that table. And then when you're looking for a part, where you go to that table that says that. Then after that, we'll start the test. What's one half of the class? So the class needs to figure that out. Yeah, 12:35. I'll figure that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to be in lab the first part of the class, and then we'll take the test the second part of the class. 9 to 1. Huh? 11. So we'll talk. So about a quarter to 11, we'll start buttoning everything up. Give y'all a little time to take a break. By the way, when we're in lab, we don't say let's take a break. But you remember, you're responsible for, so your grade in lab is based on quality, and it's also based on quantity. You understand that? The story I tell, this is a true story. My classroom used to be an AC50. They had a painter that the college hired come in there and paint my classroom. And the classroom was probably about twice the size of it. It took Tommy almost 4 weeks to paint that classroom.
Whoa.
4 weeks.
4 weeks paint classroom?
Paint classroom.
How big was it?
It's about twice the size of it. So if you took this divider right here, so it wasn't a small classroom, but still 4 weeks. But Tommy never used a piece of tape or anything. He could paint a straight line, like he could paint down a window, the seams of the window. Never used a piece of tape, never get any paint on glass. I never seen anything like it. But he took him 4 weeks. Well, no. The professionals are in there. Yeah, you're right. He was a professional. But you can do just as good a job if you do what? If you take it off. So Tommy didn't work for the college very long. He had very good quality, but they couldn't afford to pay it. We had another guy, he went into the A+ program here at the college, and he was really good, but he was really slow. And he went to work for Uptech Computers down in Patton Creek. And that guy called, he said, the guy does beautiful work, but these guys are putting computers together in 30 minutes, and this guy's taking 5 hours to put a computer together. He said, I can't afford to what? I can't afford to keep it. Okay. So you're graded on quality. So if you take a lot of breaks, probably I'm going to fuss at you, but you're not going to be able to get your lab stuff, right? Everybody understand that? So it's up to you. About a 10-minute break, about every hour. That's fine. But don't go out and stay out there for 50 minutes. Also, Nancy, if you're a smoker, I think the smoking place is out here. But what she wants you to do is make sure you don't smoke outside the classroom and just go over to the fence over there. Okay? Everybody okay? So if you're still smoking, I'm not thinking. That's one of the hardest things I did in my life. I smoked for probably 10 years. Yeah, coke turkey. That's the only way to do it. That'd be one of the hardest decisions to make. How much cigarettes cost a pack now? $6. When I was in the Navy, you know how much we paid for a pack of cigarettes? No. Quarter pack. So everybody Navy smokes. I don't. In the Navy, in the service, you don't get an hourly rate. You're on salary.
You get a discount too.
No, you had to buy them on base.
What about you go on ship?
No, I worked on P3 Orion aircraft, and that is a huge airplane. It's an airplane. And that sucker did not land on a carrier. They had a picture of one coming in, somebody drew, it was really neat. They had the big P3 coming in, big Ford turboprop engine. They had a tail hook down coming into a carrier and everybody was jumping off the ship. That was good. No, our primary reason is seeking the source. Big one. Carrier crew of 14 people. They could stay airborne for over 14 hours without.
They're flying nuclear aircraft over North Korea yesterday.
Not over, they're flying off the coast.
Yeah, flying surrounding. Russia's got one of their planes. They got stuff on over there.
Yeah, I think it's a B-1. It's not totally safe. It's not like the.
I like the stupid.
Yeah.
I've seen them. I was on a frigate ship with my dad. We took a Tiger cruise up in Florida before 9/11 happened. When your parents would come down from overseas for the Tiger cruise, but that were like 10 years of age or older. So I got to go down to Florida and ride the ship back north in Peru, and we were coming in. I saw stuff on it.
Really?
I was so cool.
Yeah, the whole time I was in the Navy, I
You
went
can't see them. They
on
turn
a
sideways.
carrier twice, and I got lost.
What did he do?
We had some friends of ours we went to race school with that was on a carrier, and then we come in port. I was at Moffett Field, which is out in Alameda, the Navy base out there, and some of the carriers would come into port, and they would invite us over. So the first time we went up the wrong ramp, we didn't realize they had two ramps. One of them was for officers, the other was for peons. We went up the officer ramp. And they were real nice about it, but they said they were supposed to use it up.
Right.
And we got so lost on that ship, good gracious, that sucker's off big. But one of our friends was the backwards rider up in the tower. He was the one that stood behind the glass and rode everything backwards so everybody in front could watch that.
I flipped over maybe
So guys, we need to go ahead and, everybody, we go ahead and take a break. Glad to see some of y'all showed up. We didn't have a quiz this morning, so y'all got to retreat.
I was like, I'm so bad. I was like, yesterday, I was
great deal. Michael, mine, I ain't gonna lie to you. I spent about 5 minutes. Michael, today.
Where?
Bottom grade.
Oh, here.
I went to the club. I came down with first. Michael, later.
Okay, guys, everybody got a tag? Everybody got rubber band on there?
We could use our little book for that.
Yes, you can use your books. I do have some print off, but not many of that other handout. But remember, the only thing that we found on that handout was we calculate the velocity of speed of the cylinder. I think on your handout we give you inches per second, and the one in the book is feet per minute. So what you do, well, yes and no. All you have to do if you use one of my handouts is just mark off on the bottom. They got divided by 60 times 12. Just mark that off, and then you'll end up with the same formula that's in your other book. But that fluid data book is so neat.
I got it.
Because what you can do, instead of using those formulas, they have a chart in there that shows you the conversion. So a lot of times, instead of doing the math, you can look it up. If it's a standard size cylinder, which I think Nancy put on all the tests, standard size cylinder, you can, instead of doing the math, you can do just look at the chart. It's got one for none, which means you have no rod area. And it's got the standard rods in there for that cylinder. It's got the pressure, different pressures, standard pressures that we run. And you can just follow that thing over and just find what the speed is. That's not going to be on the thing that I gave out, that I have. It's strictly just a watt. It's just strictly a formula. Another thing, there's something on the test that I wanted to make sure we understood. When we measure pressure in a system, we can either gauge pressure or we can use what we call absolute pressure. And the way they abbreviate that is PISA or PISQ. So PISG would be what? Gauge pressure, and PISA would be absolute pressure. And what's the difference, guys? Everybody, did we go with that?
Absolute gauge.
Yeah.
Absolute. I guess, like,
Well, it is. The problem is that we don't understand that we have pressure on us all the time. Atmospheric pressure. So gauge pressure is minus atmospheric pressure. So that means on a PSG gauge, it will show 0. It'll show 0. If you have an absolute pressure, you're sitting there, it's going to be showing whatever pressure you're at. So sea level, an absolute pressure gauge would be setting at 14.7. Now normally,
what is that?
first wind. Yeah. Normally it makes no difference. But if everything is very, very critical, and you say a cylinder has this much pressure on it, right? Then if you wanted to be exactly right, it would be, you would have to add atmospheric pressure to it. Where if you had an absolute pressure gauge, it's doing what? It's adding that to it for you. So a PISG, which most pressure gauges are, is going to show 0. No matter where you're at, right? And then an absolute pressure gauge is going to do what? It's going to factor in your atmosphere. That's on the test, and I think we went over it, but we went over it a little fast, and then I saw it on the test, and I realized that we needed to go over it. Well, this test is going to be on paper. Like I said, I didn't have time to convert it over to the computer. And another thing, I have not had time to go over here and check to see if these computers are working. No, no multiple.
I'm screwed.
Why you can't write?
No.
Well, probably they're not multiple. These are not my test guys. These are. Huh?
Depending on what happens for me, I'll say right now, I'm gonna fail the test.
Yeah, it look like
I'm forward.
no conversion for that.
I might as well go ahead and I can't even Christmas tree. Normally
Just about none of these tests are even some of the computer tests have some multiple choice. Just about most of it filling in some.
if we had done that worksheet,
I'm not sure that.
if
Huh?
we had done that worksheet, we would have been halfway decent.
If you'd have done that worksheet, you would have been okay. If you didn't do the worksheet,
Oops. That's my fault.
you're not okay. Or if you didn't go out and look at it.
I looked at it, I just was so tired to do it, I didn't do it, that's my fault. I just thought I was way too late.
So guys, we'll go to lab. We can take a break. We'll go to lab and then we'll do what? Test? No, test in a second. We'll start the test at 11, right? You understand that? So about 10:45, we'll start butting up over there. Give you a chance to at least take a break before you take the test. Okay. The only thing that's allowed on the test is that fluid data book. And like I said, I do have some copies of that formula. But there's only one formula I noticed that was different, and what y'all need to do right off the bat is you get in, find the speed, and mark off that times 12 times 60 on the bottom, and that will be exactly what answer it's going to be used. But you will be able to use that. What's nice about that fluid data book is it's got a lot of other information in there. So if you don't have that, guys, I'm sorry. Yeah, and that will help you. Okay, guys, let's take a break and then we'll go to lab. Everybody got a lab form? I'm gonna have to run out some more, so.
Quick question. If somebody wanted to set off an EMP and cover a country, how much energy would that
I don't know. I
Covered
know.
by North Korea's.
be?
Alright, no.
It would be basically, to me, it would have to be an airburst EMT. It could be a ground burst EMT. And I would I wouldn't have any.
How long do you think they've been working on developing that before? 'Cause that's totally different weapon than the nuclear. The EMP, that's totally different weapon than the nuclear.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What it does is generate an extremely strong magnetic field. And it's just one little pulse, which they anticipate will knock out
90%
of
of America.
Yeah, of electronics, not America, just electronics. But there's a lot of things that you can't guarantee 100% of it. Definitely now.
Should.
Probably wouldn't kill an old car.
Oh, yeah, you got an old nose.
That runs off a carburetor, and
Yeah,
they have no idea what an engine control module is.
Right.
They have no idea. That wouldn't be affected at all.
That's why I want old cars. I want Gen 2 stuff.
But now, if you got a new car, it runs off. Usually has at least 2 computers in it. They have what they call.
Is that a Gen 3?
They have a body control computer in there that basically runs all your lighting and everything else. And then they have an engine control module in there that basically controls all your engine, everything. And if it fries that, you're
Kind of like, remember that movie Tom Cruise in, and they were looking and shit that getting go once that started.
military would be hard to say. A lot of their equipment is shielded.
Shielded by EMP?
Yeah, most of their stuff is shielded.
What do they use to shield it?
Just put a nice metal case and then ground it. Not lead, just metal. Except any ferrous metal. So we have, they have basically it's nothing but a bunch of, they can put them inside fences. And then they ground the fence, but it's gotta be like a steel fence.
So what happens when an EMP hits like to that ground?
It goes to ground. I mean, EMPs, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for ground. They're looking for earth ground. So yeah, it's easy. It's easy. So you could take a room in your house and you could go and get some chain link fence and put it all around the walls of that room and the ceiling. And then put a door on it like that and ground that thing. And that room would be basically impervious to you.
So it doesn't have to be solid metal.
No, it don't have to be something metal. Just be ground. Can't get through it. Because what it does, it concentrates in ground.
There's supposed to be one on the floor.
What's that?
The DOD said they were.
That's like 2000.
What?
That's like the year 2000. Or the guy, or these religious fanatics that say the world is going to end on this day. Even though the Bible says, no one knows.
No, I mean, that's supposed to be like the end of the world.
So if somebody comes up and says, this big group says the world is going to end on here, you say, thank you, Jesus. I know it's not going to end on that day, right? Like when the Mayan calendar ran out.
Yeah, I remember they said that.
Yeah, when the Mayan calendar finally ran out, they said, well, that's when the world. And in 2000, Y2K, when it came around. Alright, so my neighbors stockpiled all this food.
I was like, wait a minute. I saw that joint real easy. I just got my Nokia, the 3300 Nokia out, went to date, went to 2001, set, and waited. I'm on like 2-3 days.
The only thing that caused.
I'm already know one, man. It ain't gonna happen.
The only thing that at the time, 90% of the financial institution was working on, was using what they call COBOL, which was a programming language. Unfortunately, it occupied so much space that what they did is instead of putting the whole year in there, they used the 2-digit year. You'd be surprised how much space, you got 1 million contracts in an insurance company, how much storage space just leaving off those 2 digits would do. Well, those are the people that were going to have problems, because if you drop that year and then you come back to 00, then that means that software would think it was 1900 instead of 2000 instead of 2000. And if they were calculating interest and stuff like that, it would be awful. So if you was a COBOL programmer before then, you could name your price. Because all these big companies, that's what they was doing. They was having to go back in there, all the programs, add that second year, run it through a compiler to go back and restore all these things with the 19 on it. And then from then on, they was okay. That was the only people, they was talking about airplanes falling out of the sky.
Yeah, I knew that was.
There's nothing in an airplane that I know of that's date dependent.
Dependent, right.
Cars was gonna go dead.
Shut down. The TV gonna explode. I was like, what? I literally went to every computer I sat in, I changed the date off.
Yeah, still amazing.
I wouldn't change the date. Nothing happened. I was like, oh.
Even computers, even desktops at the time took a 4-digit year.
Yeah. Right.
The only thing I know is just software that had been around for years, and they just used 2 digits. Yeah, but if you was a COBOL programmer and before Y2K, you could name your problem. Them guys made a ton of money. Oh, but I have absolutely no idea what energy it would take to cover the whole.
The Department of Defense released a statement that they are going. I guess they're trying to prepare in case they now know that.
Yeah, but they're not going to do it here. They're going to do it out in the desert.
That's what I would think, but it didn't take time.
No, they can't. That would be stupidity.
It is fine. Then again, you don't have the brightest people right now. They're running things, so I don't know.
Yeah, that would be to test an EMP on the nation.
That would leave us wrong.
That would be. Yes. Willis want to assign a number. Just give it a title. What am I doing? Loud. Pneumatic loud. I would consider right now to be like 1A. Okay, guys, what did I do with the lab form? Gosh, don't tell me I did that.
And on the worksheet, did it start at 11? Let me, 11, because I didn't